Welcome to the Lincoln City Council meeting of the 11th of September 2017. As we rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silent meditation, please recall this is Patriot Day. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. In accordance with LB 898, a copy of the Open Meetings Act is posted at the back of the chamber. The order of business of the City Council is as follows. The clerk will call the items listed on the agenda under public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak on an item should come forward after the clerk reads that item. The applicant and those in favor should speak first, then those opposed. The applicant may then make one short rebuttal. Each speaker should begin by stating name, address, and whether you are speaking in favor or in opposition to the item. Testimony is limited to 5 minutes per speaker. After all public hearings, the council will vote on resolutions and items listed under third reading. On the second and last meetings of the month, immediately prior to adjournment, anyone may speak on any issue not on the agenda for that date, nor planned for a future agenda. Will the clerk please read the first item?
Yes, just a reminder that due to the, and I need to change this on the action sheet, due to the Indigenous Peoples Day holiday, we will not meet on Monday, October 9th. Our public hearing consent agenda are items 1 through 10. If there are any appointees here that wish to come forward.
Do we have any appointees first time here? Please come forward. Please take the opportunity to introduce yourselves one at a time.
My name's Janice Walker, and I have been appointed to the Community Health Endowment Board.
Welcome.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Eric Buchanan. I am also being nominated for appointment to the Community Health Endowment Board. Okay.
Janice, could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, yes, I can. I've been a resident of Lincoln since 1984. For the past 3 years since I retired, I have been one of those fortunate people who has a flexible schedule, something that I didn't ever think would happen to me, but it did. Prior to that, my career for 37 years was in the court system of Nebraska. And in that capacity, I learned a lot about the effects of poverty and substance abuse, and all the things that go with that on our populace, and also learned the importance of strong community services. So that's why I'm interested in the Community Health Endowment.
Okay. Janice, you did a good job. So again, my name is Eric Buchanan. I work with the Buffett Early Childhood Fund. We're based out of Omaha, Nebraska. But I live in Lincoln and have lived here for since 1980. I have 2 sons in LPS, both at Lincoln High. Go Lynx. Yeah. I think this appointment fits not only with my professional interests, but also with my personal interests. And so I'm really excited about this and really looking forward to being able to add whatever it is I can add to the board.
Excellent. Do council members have any questions for Eric or Janice? Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Eric North, and I'm on being appointed to the Community Forestry Advisory Board. I'm new to Lincoln. I just moved here. My wife and I moved here in April, but I started a new faculty position at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln, teaching urban forestry, urban and community forestry. And I've been involved in Minnesota, which is where we come from, in all sorts of community forestry boards and outreach projects throughout the state and within those communities. And so I'm excited to work in Lincoln and kind of get involved in the community forestry here.
All right. Questions for Eric? Carl?
Yeah. Thanks, Eric, for doing this.
Yeah.
So Lincoln doesn't have the winter Minnesota has. Are you going to be okay with that?
Yeah, I think I'll survive.
Okay.
Yeah, a little warmer might be nice. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
Would anyone else like to testify on these items? Next item, please.
All right, if not, we can act on these items. Item number 1, we do have a motion to amend number 1.
I'll move motion to amend number 1.
Second?
Would you describe that for us?
Yes, it is on page 1, lines 3, after the words "for terms," insert commencing October 1st, 2017, and, end quote.
Okay. Action. Okay, discussion on the amendment. Please call the roll on the amendment.
Eskridge?
Yes.
Gaylor Baird?
Yes.
Raybold?
Yes.
Schob?
Yes.
Christensen?
Yes.
Motion carried 5-0.
And now we can vote on all the others together?
Yes.
Okay. Please call the roll.
Eskridge?
Yes.
Gaylor Baird?
Yes.
Raybold?
Yes.
Schob?
Yes.
Christensen?
Yes.
Motion carried 5-0. Next then, also just a reminder to the public, we would request those giving testimony to please clearly state your name and address and to sign in on the sign-in sheet laying on the podium. Next are our public hearing liquor resolutions. Those giving testimony are asked to come forward, raise their right hand for the clerk to administer the oath. After the oath, witnesses shall state their names and addresses. I'll call items 11 and 12 together. They're the application of Costco Wholesale, doing business as Costco Wholesale number 1285 for a Class D liquor license at 1620 Pine Lake Road, as well as the related manager application of Clay Bradshaw.
Good afternoon.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth as you verily believe it to be?
I do.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Tim O'Neill, 800 Lincoln Square, 121 South 13th Street, and I'm here on behalf of Costco. They're seeking a Class D liquor license. I think we all know a lot about Costco. We're very excited to have them in town, obviously. They're going to be open October 28th, all construction gods aligned, hopefully. And they'll be employing 200 additional people in Lincoln. So a big employer for a town and a welcome addition. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Questions for Tim? Could you introduce our Costco manager to us?
Absolutely. Clay Bradshaw is with us today, and Clay is the general manager of the Costco in Lincoln and a new resident to Lincoln.
Yes, I am.
Tell us where you're coming from, Clay.
I'm actually from Bozeman, Montana. Been there since 2010, and I've moved here July 11th of this year.
Welcome
Thank you.
to
Appreciate
you
it.
and your family.
Thank you.
All right.
Clay, let me swear you in quick.
Yeah.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth as you verily believe it to be?
I do.
Thank you.
Are there questions for?
Yeah, just, again, welcome. So in Bozeman, were you managing a Costco store in that?
I was the assistant general manager there, yeah.
Okay, great.
Clay's been with Costco for 17 years.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Welcome to Lincoln again.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Would anyone else like to testify on this item? Next item, please.
All right, next is item 13, application of ACR Corporation doing business as Jake's Cigars and Spirits for a special designated license to cover an outdoor area measuring approximately 60 feet by 40 feet at 101 North 14th Street, Suite 1 on September 28th, 29th, and 30th between the hours of 5 p.m. and 11 p.m.
Hi, guys. It's good to see everybody again.
No oath on the SDLs.
Okay.
Okay, well, tell us about your request here.
I'm working with here in Nebraska and Lincoln Calling. It's a 3-day festival that basically highlights local music. 14th Street is going to be the hub. There's going to be a night market that's going to be there, and Jake's is going to have the beer liquor garden that's set up there in the middle of the street. There's also going to be a stage in front of Jake's that's going to highlight local music.
Could you state your name and address for
I'm
the record?
sorry.
That's okay.
Jason Hutchison, Hutch, 4221 South 32nd Street, Lincoln, Nebraska, 68502.
Thank you.
Questions for Hutch?
Yes. So what days of the week is this?
It's Thursday, Friday, Saturday. The street's going to be closed down. The street's going to be closed from 5 to 11 p.m., I think, is the hours that we're covering.
Okay. And is that when the music will be?
Yeah, music's going to be playing. And then a lot of the bars and venues are going to be playing music. So 14th Street's just going to be the hub that's going to kind of siphon the people over to the different venues.
Okay, great, thanks.
Carl needs to know when to wear your plugs to bed.
No, the music outside is going to be done by 10. We're saying 11 o'clock to try and get people out of the beer garden. I don't want to say 10 o'clock. People meander. We've been in bars, so.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you. Would anyone else like to testify on this item? Next item, please.
All right, next is item 14, application of SMG Food and Beverage for a special designated license to cover an outdoor area measuring approximately 281 feet by 267 feet at South Point Shopping Mall at 2910 Pine Lake Road on September 30th between the hours of 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. and October 1st between the hours of 10 a.m. and 5 p.m.
Good afternoon. I'm Tom Lorenz, General Manager at Pinnacle Bank Arena with SMG Lincoln. We get the opportunity this year to work with Lincoln Arts to provide beverages at their Lincoln Art Show, Art Festival weekend. It's right outside of Barnes & Noble and Talbot's. The times are Saturday and Sunday, and the times are 10 a.m. to 6 on Saturday, 10 a.m. to 5 on Sunday. First time we've had the opportunity to do this, we provide the fencing around the outside, so it's 6-foot chain link fence all the way around the outside. We'll have staff persons at any entry to make sure that no alcohol comes in or leaves. And we think this is a great opportunity. We love the opportunity to work with Lincoln Arts. Okay, questions for Tom?
It's a free event, isn't it? Free to the public?
I believe so. $1.
$1. Okay.
No. I have an expert. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Would anyone else like to testify on this item? Next item, please. Well, by the way, I was going to say that if you bring Garth Brooks, you can have anything you want. Let me ask for some stuff. Yeah. It's too late.
And the thunder rolled.
Okay, I need a motion.
Does someone wish to move these items, 11 through 14?
I would move them, items 11, 12, 13, and 14.
Second.
Moved by Carl, seconded by Benny. Discussion. Please call the roll.
Eskridge?
Yes.
Gaylor Baird?
Yes.
Raybold?
Yes.
Schob?
Yes.
Christensen?
Yes.
Motion carried 5-0. Next then are our public hearing resolutions. I'll call items 15 through 17 together. They are approving Legends Patio Grill and Bar as a Keno satellite site at 801 R Street, approving Gray's Keg Saloon as a Keno satellite site at 104 North 20th Street, and approving Halftime Bar and Grill as a Keno satellite at 200 West P Street.
Mr. President, members of the council, my name is Katrina Coffey. I'm Vice President of Marketing for Big Red Keno. We're located at 11248 John Galt Boulevard in Omaha. I have with me today all of the owners of the three applications you have before you. We'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Questions? Carl?
Yeah, who's who? Which? Yeah. Which?
I'm Karen Gray from Gray's Keg.
Okay.
I'm Michelle Anderson with Halftime. Mm-hmm. Michelle Anzoda with Halftime.
I'm Nick Salby with Legends.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Please take the opportunity to sign in. Other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Would anyone else like to testify on these items? All right. Next item, please.
All right, next then is item 18, use permit 05004A as an application of large partnership limited to alter the existing layout to show 6 lots surrounded by an outlot and to increase the approved square footage from 31,500 to 54,000 square feet of commercial space with waivers to setbacks on property generally located at South 14th and Yankee Hill Road.
Welcome.
Good afternoon, members of the council. Danae Kalkowski. I'm appearing today on behalf of Large Partnership Limited, the owner of the southeast corner at 14th and Yankee Hill Road. There we go. So we have 14th Street and you're on the curve coming down from Yankee Hill Road. We have an amendment to the use permit before you today. This original use permit was approved back in 2005. So we're trying to make some adjustments to make it a little more marketable for today. In essence, we're increasing the square footage from $48,500 to $54,000. What we've done is remove some of the more intense uses. There was a convenience store and a drive-through. Those have been removed and replaced with more general retail uses. So the overall impact is that there's actually less PM peak hour trips coming from the site under the revised plan. We are maintaining the side and the rear yard setbacks that were shown in the original plan. We are asking for one waiver, and it's a pretty typical waiver in a commercial development. It'd be for the internal yard or internal setbacks. Basically, we'll be platting the actual buildings as lots, and the parking lot will be one big outlot. So that's pretty typically done in those situations. The staff recommended approval with conditions. Those conditions were all acceptable. This was on the Planning Commission consent agenda and approved, and we'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Questions? Thank
Great,
you very
thank
much.
you.
I just have a staff question on this.
Okay.
David Carey could come up.
David Carey with the City Planning Department.
Thanks, David. When the original site permit was put together and approved, the commercial space envisioned was 31,000 square feet. Now it's closer to 55,000 square feet. And the initial stormwater drainage management plan was for, less intense development. So my question is that still adequate, or does any revision need to be made in order to protect the businesses that are built here from stormwater?
Yeah, it's a good question to ask because of the change in the plan and the more square footage. One of the conditions that Danae just mentioned that were acceptable to the applicant was 1.14 is to revise the grading and drainage plan to the satisfaction of Public Works and Utilities. That has been done, and that was part of the resubmittal of this and the updated plan. So that was important to be done, and it was done as part of this resubmittal.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Okay. Would anyone else like to testify on this item? Next item, please.
All right, next I'll call item 19, Comp Plan Conformance 17012, approving an amendment to the West O Street redevelopment plan to add the Huva Pharma Incorporated redevelopment project for the redevelopment of a vacant parcel into an approximately 30,000 square foot research and development complex on property generally bounded by West P Street, the first set of railroad tracks south of West O Street, 9th Street, and northwest/southwest and northwest/southwest 70th Street.
Members of the City Council, David Landis, Urban Development Department Director, the applicant in this case. We come to you for hopefully a finding of conformance between this general description of the project I'm about to tell you about and the Westo redevelopment plan and the comprehensive plan. We've been to the Planning Commission. It was on the consent calendar and was acted unanimously 6-0. This is where Lincoln has won a recent competition for an international company's expansion in the United States. The last two competitors were North Carolina and Lincoln, Nebraska. You'll find that we'll be back pretty quickly with a redevelopment plan that's moving, redevelopment agreement that's moving relatively quickly, should we get a green light from the City Council. This is the projected area. It's on the Westo area. As you can see, it's off Westo, and it's in this area. It includes, the project area includes the roadway up to Westo. It's going to be a 30,000 square foot lab. And this company, Huva Pharma, that's at this point considering coming here, is in animal nutrition and health. So they will expand their holdings in Lincoln. They have a small office now, but this will be their laboratory. It'll have from 6 to 10 jobs, from about $50,000 to $100,000 a job, and it will be a total investment of about $4.75 million. We do expect to use $500,000 of TIF money to make this work, should the City Council find conformance. Now, this is a rough sense of what we're looking at in our discussions with them. This is the most recent iteration of the kind of facility that we'll be dealing with them on. It's not the final product because we're not done with the redevelopment discussions, although they move apace. And a graphic that you might find of interest. This is the world. You can barely see the line, but this is Europe. and this is Asia, and this is the United States of America. The company, in fact, started in Bulgaria. And these are all either production sites or affiliate sites around the world. I'd be happy to answer any questions. The developer's here if you'd like to ask them questions about their operations. It is not the final redevelopment agreement. It's just whether or not this would be an appropriate amendment to make to our comprehensive plan and our redevelopment plans. I'm sorry, to our redevelopment plan as a soft landing for this project.
Okay. Questions for David? Carl?
Could the developer is here?
Mm-hmm.
Could you introduce that person to us?
Well, I'll wait for them, but in fact, yes, here they are.
Hi, my name is Chris Burgess. I'm a Director of Biologic Operation with UV Pharma, and I've been in Lincoln since 2008. So,
okay.
And we are actually located at 520 West Industrial Lake Drive in town. So,
Good. Well, glad that you're here, and glad you'll have other colleagues with you in town. So the other facility that was under consideration, Mr. Landis indicated it was North Carolina?
Yes, in Laurinburg, North Carolina. We actually own lands over there, and we were, planning on building actually in Laurinburg, and then we were, wait a minute, maybe Lincoln would be a good, opportunity. So we're actually glad to be here.
And we're glad that you're here.
Yeah.
And I happened to go to college in Laurinburg, North Carolina.
Great.
And hadn't been back until last year about this time for many years. And Lincoln's a whole lot better place. Okay. So congratulations and welcome.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Other questions? Larry?
Dave, so with the qualification for a TIF, there was a statement in the report that existing site conditions represent a barrier to development without the assistance of tax increment financing. Can you help us understand what the barriers
The
are?
south side of the property is in a floodplain. So in that sense, it's language I think that you've pointed out to us before, but there is the physical barrier of the problems that the site has. And it is in an area of either deteriorated or dilapidated circumstances sufficient to give a rise to a finding of blight and substandard. The study was done more than 10 years ago now on Westow. Those conditions have had some alteration. We just recently did a redevelopment agreement with Nature's Variety, but we're hoping for more activity on Westow.
Thank you.
Okay, other questions? Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chair, members of the council, my name is Tom Houston. My address is 233 South 13th, Suite 1900 here in Lincoln. Appearing before you today on behalf of Huva Pharma. You've met Chris Borges. Also, I wanted to mention Doug Rasmussen from the site selection firm of Dolphin Phelps has been instrumental in this process. As you heard, that Huva Pharma is a global pharmaceutical entity headquartered in Sofia, Bulgaria, with its U.S. operations headquartered in Peachtree City, Georgia, which is probably getting about 10 foot of rain today. Consequently, we do not have a Federal Express coming in with a signed redevelopment agreement, but hopefully we'll get that remedied sometime this week. Huva Pharma does focus its business opportunities in developing and in the manufacture and marketing human and animal health products. It does have an operation here in Lincoln, as indicated by Chris, in the Westgate area, and it's really the production facility. From what I understand, they really were looking for a United States operations for its research and development facility, and thus focused on both Laurinburg and Lincoln. And I agree with Council Member Eskridge that Lincoln is the better choice. But I can tell you that it was instrumental for this site being selected in Lincoln for the use of tax increment financing, and that's what's in front of you today is the amendment to the plan for that to facilitate that process. As Director Landis indicated, the West O redevelopment area was declared blighted and substandard in August of 2005, and a redevelopment plan was adopted for that area. This site directly west of the county jail is approximately an 8.5 acre parcel that will be subdivided to accommodate not only this first phase but hopefully subsequent phases of expansion for the project. This phase one project, as indicated, is approximately 25 to 30,000 square feet. Based upon our calculations, we think that the project will support approximately $500,000 in tax increment financing, and we do have a redevelopment agreement concluded. It's being signed, and it's on your agenda for approval next week, which timing is important for this property because the contract requires closing prior to the end of the month. And so for the developer to move forward, they want to get closed at the end of this month and then start construction this fall to move forward with this R&D facility. Big win for Lincoln, and it'll be a great member of the Lincoln community. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Would anyone else like to testify on this item? Next item, please.
All right, next I'll call item 20, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Lincoln affirming the city's commitment to safeguard the civil rights, safety, and dignity of all community members and our commitment to a diverse, supportive, inclusive, and protective community.
Good afternoon. Jeffrey Patrick, Lincoln City Attorney. This resolution that comes before you is not in the ordinary course of events. It's not punitive in nature. It's not a resolution having to do with development.
Over there.
It is an aspirational resolution. And when you think about the reason why it's come before this body and you think about who could have passed a resolution like this, the Lincoln Chamber of Commerce, for example, could have passed a resolution representing the business community in the city of Lincoln. You could have had or association of ministers pass in a resolution representing various religious communities within the city. I would suggest that the City Council is in a unique position to pass this resolution to represent the entire community of Lincoln. And so that's why it's before you this afternoon.
Okay. Thank you. I have asked Carl to read the resolution in its entirety.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Roy. Prepare for a lot of whereas language, okay? All right. Whereas the City of Lincoln is made up of individuals whose collective cultures, religions, backgrounds, orientations, abilities, and viewpoints join to form a healthy community that prides itself on being a place that welcomes people and families of all walks of life. And whereas there exists significant and growing concern in our community based upon recent national and regional incidents of white nationalism, hate crimes, discrimination, sexual harassment, and assault, and fear of a trend toward more of these crimes in the future. And whereas Lincolnites value all members of our community of all religions, ancestries, and ethnicities, as well as people of any socioeconomic status, disability, gender, sexual orientation, or gender identity. And whereas many Lincolnites recently have gathered peacefully to communicate their rejection of bigotry and affirm their commitment to a diverse, supportive, inclusive, and protective community. And whereas the city wants to reassure its residents and visitors that Lincoln is a place that celebrates diversity and inclusion, and whereas the city will not tolerate any prejudice, racism, bigotry, hatred, bullying, or violence toward any groups within our community, and whereas the city has been well served by a professional police department with a history of protecting and respecting the rights of all people while working diligently to keep Lincoln safe. Last one. And whereas the city encourages all residents and visitors in Lincoln to celebrate each other's differences and learn from one another. Now, therefore, the City Council of the City of Lincoln takes this opportunity to reinforce our commitment to a diverse, supportive, inclusive, and protective community and resolves as follows. The Lincoln City Council calls upon all city departments and employees and all who live, work, or visit in Lincoln to speak out against acts of bullying, discrimination, and hate violence, and to stand up for those who are targeted for such acts. The Lincoln City Council will lead by example in promoting safety, security, and respect for human and constitutional rights, and welcomes opportunities to partner with the legislature, other jurisdictions, local organizations, educational institutions, residents, and businesses that support and defend all individuals in Lincoln. Section 3, the City of Lincoln recognizes values and will proactively work to promote diversity and inclusion within our community. And Section 4, the city will oppose any attempts to undermine the safety, security, and rights of members of our community. And finally, Section 5, the city does not tolerate discrimination, harassment, or any hate-based crimes, and hereby rejects prejudice and bigotry in all forms. Thank you.
Thank you, Carl. Would anyone else like to testify on this item? If you'd like to testify, just step right up, sign in.
We had the sign-in sheet.
Please go ahead and call them.
So the first one would be Nikki Archer, then Jamie Henning, and Dan Cleve.
Thank you. My name is Nikki Archer. My address is 9601 Yellow Pine Road here in Lincoln. And I'm here representing Lincoln's Young Professional Group. We're a group of about 1,400 young professionals that live and work in the Lincoln area. And I'm here today in support of the resolution. YPG wants Lincoln to be an attractive place in which young professionals take ownership of its future by engaging the community professionally, personally, and philanthropically. Our organization believes that a diverse environment is critical for young professionals. Beyond that, the cornerstone of this community itself is based on the experiences, cultures, and beliefs of our citizens. Now is a perfect time to take a stand against hatred, bigotry, and violence, and to remind our residents that Lincoln is a place that celebrates and embraces our differences. We are committed to continuing to strengthen the City of Lincoln through creating an inclusive, supportive, and productive environment for all, and this resolution is an important part of that. I also have a letter of support I'd like to submit. Thank you. Any questions?
Questions? Thank you.
Awesome, thank you.
And next testifier, please.
Jamie Henning.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, council members. I'm Jamie Henning, and I'm here today representing our president, Wendy Birdsall, the Lincoln Chamber of Commerce, and our 1,700 plus business members in the business community. This week we visited about this topic in our chamber coffee, and we are here today to support this anti-hate resolution. We believe this is an important proactive step for our city. We're a strong and growing city because of the values we hold dear. We're inclusive and we're diverse and we celebrate different cultures in our city. And this is the energy that drives our community forward. We're all committed to being a welcoming city that's an inclusive environment, and we feel this plays an important role. Thank you so much for putting this forward. I also have a letter in support.
Questions for Jamie?
Thank you.
Thank you. Next testifier.
Good afternoon. My name is Dan Cleve, and if I'd like to ask permission, I actually have received hundreds of death threats in the last month, so I gave you guys my address. So if I'd prefer not to announce it.
You've written it down?
I've written it down for you guys, yeah.
Okay.
So I trust you guys. So this has got to be the best Bill Clinton speech I have heard in a long time. You know, and you know, I read the editorial on the on your newspaper here, and it like tried to play this or portray it as some sort of American sentiment. And you know, I wanted to come here and ask, you know, you guys, is this an American sentiment or is this a business proposition? That's an important thing, because when I look at America, its history, so it has a very long and rich history, great history. I look at people like Thomas Jefferson, George Washington, Benjamin Franklin, with a sense of admiration, right? And, you know, they did a lot of things when we made this country that are not politically correct, that many today would be considered hateful or bigoted or closed-minded. And, you know, I wanted to review some of these things. I'm sure most of you guys learned them in college, but I think it would be serve a good purpose to just run through them real quick, guys. You know, one, we had a war against the Indians, the Native Americans. We kicked them out, and because we were better at running a society than they were. It was like the free market is used to essentially kick out people who aren't good at business and management. Well, we had a war to determine who was better at running a nation's natural resources and economy and, you know, cultural values, and we won. You know, we also had a war against Mexicans to secure Texas and California. We fought against Muslim pirates We did lots of different things. To be fair, there were classes of people that were not allowed to have property and were not allowed to vote. We're a democracy now, but once upon a time, we were a republic, where if you were not a businessman or some sort of, high merit-based individual, you were not allowed to vote. And it worked a lot better, to be fair. And, so the thing is, another thing is like homosexuals were not allowed to promote it in your 5th, 6th grade classrooms. And if you say something about these things, it's considered hate. One specific ideology that was targeted was white nationalism, which, to be fair, all of our founding fathers were that title. And, it's specifically targeted for them. And, to be fair, there's lots of other groups that have this ethnocentric, idea, and we don't attack them. And there's a reason for that. I think to be fair, this is very hateful towards that group of people, And so in closing, you look at all these language of tolerance and diversity and community and whatnot, and I think it's very coincidental that you're tying this in with business propositions today, because that's what it is. This is friendly. This is filtered content to create a safe zone where you can do business, because that is the goal in the next 50 years, is to create this giant hegemony of essentially elite business managers and corporations that control this classless, identityless, raceless mass population of consumers. And that's what's happening. It's already happening in Europe. And so I think it's interesting. It's an interesting question. Is this Bill Clinton speech here, this resolution 17R226, is this an American sentiment, or is it really just a business proposition? Thank you.
Questions? Thank you. Next testifier, please.
Next is Albert Sukow, Lou Bratz, and Dan Reisdorf.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Albert Sukow. My address is 9100 Maryvale Drive. I'm a recent immigrant myself to Lincoln, so I know nobody here will hold that against me. I'm here to oppose Resolution 17R-226 to speak against hate speech, and I want to tell you my reasons. I watched a lot of the coverage after the event, and I saw a picture of angry faces, and that was the face that was put on the event. But I also spent a significant amount of time watching the live stream, numerous live streams of the event, and I was very interested in what I saw because there were several things that stood out to me as entirely unique. One of them is that when the police arrived to address the Charlottesville protesters themselves, the Charlottesville protesters began shouting, "Blue Lives Matter." And that stood out to me because it is not something that we see very often at these kinds of protests. It doesn't really reflect a hateful, bigoted, or supremacist mindset. These were the police that were there to terminate their permit to continue protesting. So that was very interesting. This was not the typical group that you see protesting. What I also saw from those live streams was a man who was attacked and acid was sprayed in his face, and he almost lost his eyesight while he was doing nothing violent to anybody. I saw pictures of a makeshift flamethrower used against these protesters. They weren't broadcast very widely, but certainly if you search for pictures of the Charlottesville protests, you will see them. I saw men with clubs surrounding a now infamous Dodge Charger just before an unfortunate and deadly event. After the protest, I saw these young men who were there trying to express their concerns. They were what we call doxxed on the internet. Their identities were revealed, and then their employers were called by parties unknown. And these people were fired from their jobs. Their livelihoods were terminated. They had gone to the event in good faith. They were showing their faces. They were wearing college shirts, almost making themselves easy to find. And this is the result they got. They got disowned by their families. They got fired from their jobs in many cases. And so when I saw in the Lincoln Journal-Star a proposal or a resolution to stand against hate speech, to stand against violence, I thought these people had a lot of hate directed toward them. They had a lot of violence directed toward them. I thought, oh, that's great. And then when I looked at the resolution itself, I saw lines 4 through 6, and on line 5 I saw white nationalism called out, which many people associate in their own minds with white supremacism. But I was glad to see that word wasn't used because it's even more loaded than white nationalism. So I appreciated the resolution as, if it is objectively carried out, it would help defend these young men from attack. But I don't think in the end that was the intent of it. So if you disagree with these young men and their concerns, why do we shut them down? Why do we prevent them from speaking? And this resolution doesn't do that, I understand that. But why would we not even hear what they have to say? Because if they're wrong, the classic libertarian argument goes, then it should be easy to demonstrate that they're wrong. Let them speak. Let them show how wrong they are so that we can then, through reason and through dialogue, demonstrate exactly how wrong they are.
1 minute.
So, ladies and gentlemen, I oppose this resolution. I think that the sentiments that were expressed by the young men are common and that they were articulated even by our last duly elected president, Donald Trump. And the defacement of the statues that occurred after they were finished was not their responsibility. Those young men didn't do it. They were done by their opponents. If anyone, I would support an amendment condemning the opponents of the Charlottesville protesters. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Other questions? Thank you. Next testifier.
All right. Next is Caitlin Mullen and Terry Pope Gonzalez.
Oh, that's after Lou, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I'm hoping so. You know, a couple months ago I figured I was going to have a different view of here, but that's all right. Good afternoon, and thank you for the privilege, ladies and gentlemen. I'm here in support of this resolution. I've heard 2 dissenting opinions that begin us, and I would just like to start with a quote from Abraham Lincoln that says, "I am a slow walker, but I never walk back. This country in its walk forward for progress is slow, but it never walks back. This city in its growth from 30 people to the 250,000 plus has been slow, but it will not, I repeat, not walk back." I stand here aghast, but also remembering from one of my tutors that change only happens when everyone is made to feel uncomfortable, that when you work for the change, you yourself must feel uncomfortable. And quite frankly, I am feeling uncomfortable right now because the matter at hand and the resolution that we are looking at and hopefully is planned to be passed is in some parts because of 2 gentlemen. One, who I could sit here and put on a screen, was at Charlottesville, who was part of the violence, but chose not to bring that up as he spoke, as his cohort spoke about how he saw it on live stream. Are you going to say that you haven't passed back the stories over a couple beers? So,
excuse me, Lou.
What I would ask is that we go forward.
Okay.
What I would go forward and say is that we only spoke to business owners voting, once again going back. And at that point, it was a better way as expressed by the first gentleman. But he goes further to say that this is a business decision. And a business decision is not the best way to handle our politics. I wonder if he got confused. I also wonder, as he listed the civil wars, that he forgot 2. The Civil War, where brothers did fight over these ideas, and many other things. We could get into the history lesson on that. And World War II. World War II, where my grandfather on both sides fought. And I know many of you have family members that fought as well. In other words, this particular idea has been debated. This particular idea has been fought over, and this particular idea worldwide lost. These are gentlemen and children and young men that, yes, have lost their way and, yes, are pained and angry because they cannot figure out how to get a better opportunity for themselves. That is true. But to not only speak and write words against this type of rhetoric would be us replaying history. We can not only speak and write words, but I, along with many others, will continue to take action to make sure that this city, where many of our children are being raised, is not also a city where racism, homophobia, bigotry, or Islamophobia is raised as well. I urge you all to stand in support of this resolution, and then every time that you're requested, because you are public servants, by the people you are supposed to represent, to stand in the streets as well and say that this is not welcome in our hometown. Thank you very much for the time, the privilege, and the opportunity. Once again, my name is Lou Bratz. My address, because I do not fear it, is 5020 South 56th Street, Lincoln, Nebraska, 68516. I'm a proud homeowner, a proud Nebraskan, and a proud father, and I'm proud to stand here and say this. Thank you again.
Questions? Thank you. Next testifier, please.
Next is Dan Reisdorf, Sony fan, and Caitlin Mullen.
Hi, my name is Caitlin Mullen, and I'm a student at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln, and I wrote my address down, but I would like to not say it, if that's okay.
Okay.
So I would like to start with, racism has no place in our community, and I appreciate the goodwill of the City Council in this resolution. With that being said, I have some concerns of the unintended consequences this resolution might have. Questions like, how is this going to be implemented, and how are we going to define hate? I'm sure some of you have heard about my story of what happened a couple weeks ago at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln when I was out advocating for free markets and freedom, handing out stickers that said, "I love America," when I was confronted by city employees, because they're employed by the university, calling me racist, anti-fascist, a member of the KKK, a white nationalist, when I have no connection to that, and I believe those should be condemned. Due to my traumatic experience on campus, I worry that I'm going to fall victim to the resolution. And based upon one person's definition of race and hate, am I going to have to fear that the police are going to come to my door for me standing up for freedom? We cannot have the community define what hate means. I'm asking you guys to vote no on this because we are standing up for civil rights, and part of civil rights is freedom of speech, and we need to keep that in mind. Thank you.
Questions for Caitlin? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is Dan Reisdorf here?
Okay.
All right, if not, Sony fan.
Hello, Council, and everyone that is attending today's meeting. I thought I was going to just have something typed up or prepared, but I'm actually just going to speak from my heart. There's a lot of events that it's going on here in this world, this country. Some that have happened in the past, some that's also occurring now. But in all, we are human, and we all bleed red. And humanity is what we have in common. There's good and bad in all sorts of life, in all sorts of people, but we have to remember that the important thing that keeps us going is the belief and the love that we have for ourselves and for each other. Whether or not if this person loves me or hates me, or this person is indifferent with me or not, the point of it is that we're all human. And People are afraid to mention their addresses. People are getting death threats, and it doesn't matter who's getting them or what. It just shouldn't happen. My parents didn't have a choice, really, to come here. If they had a choice, they would have stayed where they were at. But due to the circumstances of what's going on back then, they had to come. And the U.S. opened their arms. And ironically, the Midwest at that time, back in the 60s, was a real big hub for refugees. Did they have a choice to leave? Yes. Why? Because they didn't want to die. They wanted to survive. And this was the choice for them that they made, and they came here. And they opened their arms. They did what they were supposed to do. They became citizens in 1982 and 83. My parents came in 1980. I was born 3 months after they arrived. I'm a citizen, but I still value humanity, and I still value rights. I still value freedom. And I teach this to my friends, my kids, even people that are wrong. But they have a right to their beliefs, and you can't take that from them. They have a right to their feelings, because feelings are real. Doesn't matter. But all we need to do is really just respect one another and just care. I have one thing I do want to read, and it's from Elie Wiesel, and he read The Perils of Indifference back in 1999. Indifference elicits no response, and indifference is not a response. Indifference is not a beginning, it is an end. And therefore, indifference is always the friend of the enemy, for it benefits the aggressor, never the victim, whose pain is magnified when he or she feels forgotten. The political prisoner in his cell, the hungry children, the homeless refugees, not to respond to their flight, not to relieve their solitude for offering them a spark of hope, is to exile them from human memory. And in denying their humanity, we betray our own. So all this going back and forth, I understand. I can relate, but I may not know 100%. But I do know that we are all human. That's all I have.
Thank you. Questions? Okay.
Terry?
No, it takes me a minute. So
That's okay.
hit it. Okay, all right. Here's my filter. That's the best I got. Teresa, now, I get my peace disturbed every time you guys get paid holiday, and my husband doesn't. Now, this is for Roy. He had a birthday. Now, the little kids like noise. Okay? Now, I'm a dog person, am I not, Roy? And the boy that I have, were you afraid of him, Roy?
Concerned.
Okay. Al Capone has no problem taking any of you. He's 265 pounds of English Mastiff. He could care less what kind of shirt you have on, what color your skin is. He knows that he has been raised by me and abused by you. You know, the most abuse that I have put up with, oh, here, we brought you some Can of Man, all right? This is from that Marine sniper, my brother. It's Popeye, spinach. Now I'm going to read this, okay? This is Journal Star Monday, September 24th, 2012. Utah escapees are arrested in Lincoln. Of course, white lives don't matter. They never did. Not in Lincoln, Nebraska. A sheriff's deputy out for morning coffee Sunday stumbled upon a perfect plot for a buddy film. I'm an inner city kid, Denver, Colorado, so I have to spell when I can't say it. Lancaster County Sheriff's Deputy Terry Jones was crossing the Harris Overpass on his way to McDonald's shortly before 9 a.m. You guys know where the Harris Overpass is? 4 blocks from my house, right? Now I have a tumor. If you guys had left me alone, let me get some sleep, I'd have died in my own bed, huh? Now, Carl, you, Raybolt, Christensen, I like you, so we're going to leave you alone. Bernie, you weren't in on it. Gaylor Baird, remember the tornado? Remember the tornado, and you were afraid of the balls or the hail coming down on the woods bubbles. Do you know the discrimination that you showed that day? You couldn't even go to the same bathroom with us people out here. Do you really think a tornado is going to care what business you own or if you're a deputy ombudsman for the state of Nebraska. Now that man back there, he probably couldn't hear like I can't hear. So hopefully I'm not as loud as him. I was thinking, wow, but I can't hear. You know, we have a hearing man here. First time I yelled at you, you should have been at my house, huh? But see, actually Roy's got it. When the person came about their car in impound, you're right. If he had a Tesla, he'd have had a better attorney. Now Tesla to me is a band, and I saw it at Red Rocks with my son, who I haven't seen since 2006. And guess what? He's an Aryan Brotherhood. And if any of you bother him, trust me, you don't want me at your door. Now my address is 349 South 1st Street. Please come on over, and please be offended, because you can't possibly be as offended as I am. Now when your Black Lives Matter march happened, where was I? Sitting with a little boy who's called White Chocolate, because his mama's white and his daddy's black. Now what people don't understand, because they don't know their history, at one time, 10 Irishmen were worth 1 black slave. So what is an Irish? Hunky white, right? But guess what? They get their own holiday, don't they? How come? Because everybody's Irish on St. Patrick's Day, right? For business. So yeah, here, let's finish. This town makes convicts. That's what they do. They make convicts faster than any place I've ever seen. And beggar factories. My husband works at Offutt Air Force Base, where none of you can go. He has no idea what an EBT card is, or food stamps, or even welfare cheese. And he's 65 years old. What do you think of that, Carl? You ever met my husband? Yeah, because you tried to say he disturbed your peace. He doesn't disturb anybody's peace. He lives with me. He wouldn't say shit if he had a mouthful. It's the only cuss word I'm going to use. And shit actually means stack high in transit. Because if you don't stack it right, guess what? That load falls on you. And we got to call a boycott. Can you imagine having the power to call a boycott on a store or somebody's business? Gaylor Baird, you're only in my neighborhood 20 minutes, and you were so sure that business was so good. Do you know how we know? Because when you step into my neighborhood, we start writing down license plates. Because if you're a child molester, we're going to come to you. Because we can't call the police. Because they don't show up. 8 hours later, maybe they do. What do you think of that? That's all. No, that's probably not all I've got to say, but right now, can you hand that to? And you know what? Here, do we need to keep this out? You know what this is? Camel filters. Who smokes here? Do I? No. Please hand him that. I will. No, make sure, because you didn't give Mickey her panties. All right.
Okay, next testifier.
That's it on the list. Anybody else wish to come forward?
Very good. If you want to come forward, please come forward now.
Apologies. My name is Erica Hansen. I prefer not to give my address. I did not.
Could you sign in with the list there
yes.
then?
Sorry. My name is Erica Hansen. This is my first city council meeting. I did not plan to speak at all. I just planned to watch and see what went on. So I am very nervous right now and shaking, but I felt that I had to get over my own nervousness and get up and say, well, this is the first time I've heard the full form of this resolution. I am in favor of it. Anything that speaks of any sort of white nationalism, personally, I am not a fan of. I may have some sort of history that comes from this country or whatever, but I do not believe in any sort of white pride, and that scares me, hearing things like that. I believe that it is important for our city to take a stand for the civil rights of all people in our city and to show respect for everyone in our city. And I am fearful that hate speech tends to lead to hate violence. It is very true that all sides in any matter, there can always be violent people on any side of anything. But hate speech is something that I think is more likely to lead to violence. And that is something that I personally, as your average standard just citizen voter, do not respect. And I would be very proud of the city to take a stand, to stand up for all its citizens. Thank you.
Thank you. Very good. Next item.
That concludes our public hearing. We can move into the voting session. Public hearing resolutions. Item 15, approving Legends as a Keno satellite at 801 R Street. This was introduced by Shob.
So moved.
Second. Moved by Benny, seconded by Carl. Discussion. Please call the roll.
Eskridge?
Yes.
Gaylor Baird?
Yes.
Raybold? Yes. Shob?
Yes.
Christensen?
Yes.
Motion carried 5-0. Item 16 is approving Gray's Keg Saloon as a Keno satellite at 104 North 20th Street, introduced by Shob.
So moved.
Second. Moved by Benny, seconded by Carl. Discussion. Please call the roll.
Eskridge?
Yes.
Gaylor Baird?
Yes.
Raybold? Yes. Shob?
Yes.
Christensen?
Yes.
Motion carried 5-0. Item 17 is approving Halftime Bar and Grill as a Keno satellite at 200 West P Street, introduced by Shob.
So moved.
Second. Moved by Benny, seconded by Carl. Discussion. Please call the roll.
Eskridge?
Yes.
Gaylor Baird?
Yes.
Raybold? Yes. Shob?
Yes.
Christensen?
Yes.
Motion carried 5-0. Item 18 is use permit 05004A. This is the application of large partnership to alter the existing layout at South 14th and Yankee Hill, introduced by Shob.
So moved.
Second. Moved by Benny, seconded by Carl. Discussion. Please call the roll.
Eskridge?
Yes.
Gaylor Baird?
Yes.
Raybold? Yes. Shob?
Yes.
Christensen?
Yes.
Motion carried 5-0. Item 19 is Comp Plan Conformance 17012, introduced by Shob.
So moved.
Second. Moved by Benny, seconded by Carl. Discussion. Please call the roll.
Eskridge?
Yes.
Gaylor Baird?
Yes.
Raybold? Yes. Shob?
Yes.
Christensen?
Yes.
Motion carried 5-0. Item 20 is a resolution of the City Council of the City of Lincoln affirming the city's commitment to safeguard the civil rights, safety, and dignity of all community members and our commitment to a diverse, supportive, inclusive, and protective community, introduced by Eskridge.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Carl, seconded by Benny. Discussion. Carl, would you like to lead off?
I would. Thank you. And I want to thank everybody who was here and who participated in this hearing today. Everybody's spoken up for values that are important to you. Hearing from you is important. There's always an open forum, obviously. And perhaps more importantly, I want to thank those who were in opposition. Unfortunately, some of them have left because that's who we are. I mean, we're a community that listens. We respect one another's ability to speak your mind, to say what's important to you, and that's important to us. We might disagree. We disagree up here from time to time.
We do.
But we respect one another and each other's rights to speak out. So this summer's incidents in Charlottesville, Virginia were deeply disturbing to that community. And those shock waves rippled out into other communities, and they rippled down into really the core of our nation. And these were issues that we've been dealing with since we were founded as a nation that we still haven't completely gotten our arms around. Charlottesville, Virginia is a great city. It's a city that has a top-notch university. It's the home of the third president of the United States, the drafter of our Declaration of Independence. But that great city and its proud and shiny image was seriously damaged and tarnished because of one lousy weekend. And the people of Charlottesville will have to live with that heritage for the rest of their lives. But that's Charlottesville. What we're dealing with here is Lincoln, Nebraska. And as one of the testifiers mentioned, when Lincoln was established as our state's capital city, we were a hamlet of 30 citizens. We were made the capital city. We had to build a state capitol, we had to build a university, we had to build a prison, an insane asylum, a city, we had to build roads and businesses and houses with 30 people. How do you do that? Well, you don't. Except you open the doors. You let it be known that you're a city, that you're open for business, that you're needing to form, and that anybody and everybody who has skills can come into that city and help build that community. And so that foundation of our city, since we became the state capital, was to have those open arms, to be respectful of one another, whoever would come to help us build this great place. 23 years after we were named the state capital, those 30 people in the 1890 census, those 30 people became 55,000 people. That many people came to this backwater there was nothing here. But they came because of the promise of a great life that was offered. And they came and built this community with the strong pillars of government and business and education and philanthropy and faith. Lincoln would become the great city that I think the founders envisioned. Sometimes it's talk, there's an image that comes out of the Sermon on the Mount. Getting a preacher here. The city on a hill. And that same image has been one that has been taken over by preachers, but by politicians, and notably some presidents. Presidents have referred to that image frequently, and the one president I think who referred to it most often, might surprise you, was Ronald Reagan. And when he left office, President Reagan said these words. He was talking about the city on the hill. And he said, if that city had to have walls, then those walls would have to have doors. And if it had doors, those doors would be open to anyone with the will and the heart to get there. That's how I saw it, and that's how I see it still, President Reagan said. So if we, together, if we are to be that city, then we must live up to that legacy. We must welcome those who come and help us build this city to be an even greater city. We must continue to be that refugee resettlement community that we've been for decades. People will come. Sure, they'll be different, but we must welcome them as all of us have come here from different places and been welcomed too. Lastly, this resolution, more than anything, holds each one of us, not just us up here, not just those that are here at council meeting today, but everybody in this community, holds each one of us accountable. This resolution reads city. And city is not us. City is not what happens in this building. City is everybody. City includes everybody in this community. It's council, it's city staff, it's businesses, it's community leaders, it's our schools and our churches and other religious groups, it's families, it's every single individual. Together, we are that city on the hill. And as the city, we have to take that stand. We have to take that stand and that pledge that we cannot tolerate hate. We cannot tolerate hate-based crimes in our city because we're better than that. Thank you.
Larry? It's tough going after the Reverend. Thank you, Carl, though. Thank you for bringing this to council. for your leadership, and to the entire council for getting behind this, and to all of the people who spoke today for the concern you have for the future of our community. This resolution is largely symbolic, but it's important, and it's about shaping the future of our community. It's about what we value and hold dear. And I think that really what we want to do is affirm that none of us are powerless in the face of hate and bullying and discrimination. There are things that we can do peaceably and respectfully. We can decide not to be silent in the face of injustice, and we can report hate crimes and violence and acts of intimidation and discrimination where we see them, and we can call upon our law enforcement professionals. They want to support us in fighting those things. And we can engage in respectful dialogue to build understanding among people with different views. That's really important. And we can raise our children to respect diversity, and that's really how we shape the future. Our resolution encourages all of this, and I'm proud to support the values of tolerance and inclusion that it embodies. Thank you.
Jane?
Well, I too want to stand or sit before you in solidarity with my colleagues on the City Council, the members of our community, and everyone in our city. We're very proud of who we've become as a city. And this resolution reaffirms our commitment to everyone's civil rights and the dignity of all, and to safeguard those individuals in our community, and to allow them to express themselves in a very civil fashion, which I was so proud to see everyone do so today. There are so many people I want to commend who have demonstrated true leadership in our community. Certainly all of you in the community, our Chamber of Commerce, and I know the Young Professional Group has been outspoken time and time again before the state legislature, saying how important this is to our community, that we protect individuals and safeguard everyone's civil rights, and do so on a daily basis. It's something that we can never forget, and that we are terribly proud of. You know, I often quote all the great accolades that our city of Lincoln has received. And it's not just the business side of it, although that's very important to us. That clearly has helped us to grow. But it's also how we raise our families and how we welcome diversity. We have been a refugee relocation hub for decades, and it's something that has increased the diversity of our community and has made us very proud. But some of the accolades that we have received are attributed to everyone in the community by being welcoming. We are rated number 4 of the best places to raise a family, best places for women, best places for men, one of the happiest states. It's a great city for our college grads. Top 20, or it's top 5 in the top 20 states for education climate, something that we're very, very proud of. We also have one of the best work-life balances, a great quality of community, and these are things that we're very proud of. But we didn't just get there. We got there from the contributions of so many in our community and the public-private partnerships. And that's why Lincoln is such a great place to live. That's why we keep winning some of these amazing business contracts and welcoming these global leaders to our community. They've recognized it too. And we are here proudly today to stand in solidarity, to support this resolution, and to reaffirm to everyone that we will do our best every single day to uphold the traditions of our city, but also the spirit of this resolution, and work with everyone to make sure that we can execute it on it.
Thank you. Benny?
Yes, Mr. President, thank you. I'd like to stand in solidarity with my colleagues. They've said lots of wonderful things, and I'm not going to reiterate that. I'm going to say a little something about me. I grew up in Kentucky. I grew up in the South, and I moved to Nebraska not knowing what Nebraska was like, and found it to be a warm, inviting, and welcoming place. I call it my home now. I'm a Nebraskan by choice because of many of the things my colleagues have said. Nebraska is not perfect yet, but we're working hard to get there, and that's what this resolution says. We're going to reaffirm our commitment to working to make Nebraska one of the best places in the world for anyone. And I vote yes for this resolution.
Thank you. As the chair of the council, it's my privilege to speak last before I call the vote. And I have heard in the days since Carl and I first discussed this resolution, some concerns on both sides of the issue. Concerns that we were trying to limit free speech, concerns that we were making a gesture that was meaningless and useless on its face. I'd like to speak to that for a moment and what we expect to receive as a community as a result from this resolution. First of all, this is not a resolution against free speech, quite the opposite. It is my belief that free speech cannot take place when someone speaks out there and tells us their mind and they are then the recipient of anger and hate. We need to separate anger from public discourse. That's one of the intentions of this resolution, because anger produces hate and hate produces violence, and we do not want that in our city. We all have passions. I hope we do, because nothing great has ever been achieved without passion. But on the other hand, when we allow our passions to rule us, we achieve nothing great either. As a city, I hope the result of this resolution is that we will have a discourse, a civil, polite discourse in our community on the subject, and that we will, through that discussion in our families, in our neighborhoods, produce a result where we all can look at each other with acceptance and understanding, and when we disagree, we can agree to disagree without being disagreeable. And we have done that as a city council. I'm pleased to sit with these folks because we have disagreed, as Carl has said, but no one's ever been disagreeable towards me in any of that. And hopefully I've never expressed it to anyone else. And that's what we want in our entire community. These folks up here represent our community and have done a good job at having good free speech, good discourse, and avoiding anger and hatred. And that's what we want for our entire community. Please call the roll.
Eskridge.
Yes.
Gaylor Baird.
Yes.
Raybold.
Yes.
Schob.
Yes.
Christensen.
Yes.
Motion carried 5-0. There are no public hearing ordinances second reading. There are no ordinances third reading. Our resolutions on first reading are items 21 through 31. And our ordinances on first reading were items 32 through 43. Our pending list, date certain, are items 44 and 45. Item 44 will come off for next week. Pending list are items 46 through 48. Anyone wishing to address the council on a matter not on this agenda and not planned to appear on a future agenda may do so at this time, since it is an open microphone night.
Yes, it's me.
Okay.
Okay. You give him his Canaman? Terry Pope Gonzalez. And I want you to know that not one of you represent my neighborhood. Not one of you. Even though, Carl, it's you. Carl, you're not the one who threw us under the bus. Jonathan Cook did. Remember Jonathan Cook? See, there should have never been a concrete company in a residential area. Never. But hey, here, we're not going to talk about that today. We're going to talk about this. How you doing, Jeff? You're safe today. All right, we're gonna read this, okay? Because I got little kids. And the little kids are what? 2, 3, and 4, so they're paying attention. Lincoln Journal-Star Local, Monday, September 24th, 2012. Utah escapees are arrested in Lincoln. Lincoln, Nebraska. Can you imagine that? By Zach, and I don't know how to say his name, Pluhacek, Lincoln Journal-Star. A sheriff's deputy out for his morning coffee Sunday stumbled upon a perfect plot for a buddy film or a Jack, Kerouac style novel. Lancaster County's Sheriff's Deputy Terry Jones was crossing the Harris Overpass on his way to McDonald's shortly before 9 a.m. when he saw an abandoned Buick on the side of the bridge and 2 men walking away from it. Jones called to them, but they wouldn't stop. So a swarm of lawmen closed off the bridge, cutting them off. Back at sheriff's headquarters, investigators heard quite a tale. The older man, 31-year-old Dallas E. Derrick, and he's white, hunky white, told them that he and Jason M. Brom, like Brahma Bull, 21, had crawled through a 1 by 2 foot vent in a laundry room in the county jail in northeastern Utah on Wednesday, then spent the days following their escape stealing cars along Interstate 80 and driving until they ran out of gas, according to Lancaster County Sheriff's Sergeant Mike Novacek, before coming to a close in the Lancaster County Jail. Their journey took them from Vernal, Utah, BYU, right, to Cheyenne, Wyoming, where they stole a Cadillac Escalade with keys inside, along with a full tank of gas, 5 tall beers. Then to Nebraska, where they stopped in Maxwell and Grand Island before coming to the capital city. Their fourth car, a Chevrolet Tahoe, they picked up in Grand Island, ran out of gas near mile marker 399 in northwest Lincoln. The Nebraska State Patrol spotted the SUV while doing traffic duty for Saturday's Husker football game and had it towed. The pair hoofed it more than, it's a See Escapees, page 2. Hoofed it 4 miles to North 27th Street, Derrick told investigators. There they stole an early 1990s blue Buick from an apartment complex near North Star High School. Can you imagine that? Huh. And then they end up over by me. Now in 2012, Al Capone was only 2, right? Now Carl, do you know why I'm so upset with you? You let those people kill my dog, and you did nothing. See, where I come from, you don't abuse the old people, and you don't molest the young people. Oh, Gaylor Baird, did you know? You're my son's age, just so you understand, okay? And I've been to the Mormon temple where, I don't know, we never got to that, because my brother laid the tile in the big temple in Utah. Now, and I'm very jealous of this man. Do you know what it cost me to get a tan like that? So you know what? I don't have a problem with somebody's color of their skin. You know what I have a problem with? It's the money somebody made off our suffering. Now you understand, my husband is back to work now, and he better be left alone. And I haven't seen my son since 2006. And I'm sure I'm the only one that's ever been to a Black Lives Matter march and a KKK meeting. And I'm sure I'm not one of the leaders in this town, because I would have never let it go to hell in a handbasket like you people did. Now, which of you people up there make $600 a month? Not any of you. But those little old ladies in my neighborhood do. And they don't have EBT cards. And they don't go to the beggar factories. And when I have to stand in line at Food Net to get your throwaway groceries, that really upsets me. Because their husbands were in World War I and World War II in the Korean conflict. And they're living on $600 a month because our leaders just need to have some money, don't they? So when somebody says, you know, she's really pissed off, that's POW. Now let's get it straight. My dad was Army Air Corps, Corps of Engineers, Ordnance Division, explosives expert, POW. So I think I have a right to be pissed off. I guess it better be being pissed on, right? That's what Al Capone was doing to Roy's sign, so I couldn't give him back to him. But you know what? So when somebody says she's angry, come on over.
Thank you.
And I didn't care what you guys voted on it. I didn't, because nobody ever asked me, okay? But now everybody's seen me cry. Now we happy?
Thank you. Would anyone else like to testify this afternoon? If not, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mr. President, I would move that we adjourn.
Second?
Moved by Carl, seconded by Jane. Please call the roll.
Eskridge?
Yes.
Gaylor Baird?
Yes.
Raybold?
Yes.
Schob?
Yes.
Christensen?
Yes.
Motion carried,
We
5
are
to 0.
adjourned.